makes a truly great solo? Now, I'm not just talking about jazz. It could be rock, blues, maybe even classical. That's what I'd like to talk with you about today. Hi, I'm Donna Schwartz from DonnaSchwartzMusic.com, the site for practical tips and solutions to improve your music performance skills. So I had a bunch of my subscribers ask me about what makes up a really great solo. And I know that we're talking about jazz, but what I want to talk to you about today isn't just for jazz, okay? You know, a lot of times with great solos, the community usually decides, wow, that's a really awesome solo. You know, like Miles Davis solo on So What, you know, for example. Whereas for some folks, what the community says is a great solo, they may not agree with. And that's perfectly fine. Everybody's got their own tastes. But some of the key components of a great solo transcend all types of genres and fit many people's tastes. And that's what I want to get into today. But the first thing, though, that will help you build a great solo is to do a tremendous amount of listening to the genre that you want to play, whether it's classical, jazz, rock, blues, whatever. So that's the first thing. And I want to use an analogy with you. You didn't learn how to speak your language right when you came out of the womb. It didn't happen, okay? You had to listen, do many, many years of listening to your parents, and if you're learning a second language, to other people speaking that language fluently, until you were able to babble some sounds, eventually speak words, eventually speak short little phrases, sentences, thoughts. So in order to come up with a great solo, we've got to do a lot of listening. You've got to build that musical vocabulary, because it's not going to just magically appear, and it's not going to come from reading. It's not going to come visually, it's going to come orally. That's super important. So that's the first thing. You've got to definitely do a lot of listening. What you also have to do is, as you're doing the listening, build up the technique on your instrument. Now, you could do a great solo with 2-3 notes, okay? A lot of great solos out there that actually do that. But you don't want to always play solos with just 3 notes. So as you're doing your listening, start building your technique. Practice your scales, but practice them with a metronome. Do different types of variations on the scales. Don't just start always on the root, on do. Start on so, okay? Do exercises like stuff like that, where you're starting on different degrees of the scale. Change up your articulations. Use smoother articulations, more legato. Use more separated styles of articulation. Switch it up, okay? Build up your technique. That's going to also help you build your great solo, because the fact of the matter is that your solo is going to come from your level of playing ability. If you don't have that background of listening and you don't have a lot of technique, you can't possibly expect to make like a really, really terrific solo, okay? So just some stuff to keep in mind. The other thought is that you don't want to preconceive your solo. What do I mean? For a lot of beginners with improvisation, we tend to write out a great solo that we hear in our head, and then we memorize it. Well, when it comes time to performing it, the nerves start coming in. You start wondering, oh my gosh, I hope I don't forget it. And what happens? You forget it. Or you're so like nervous and amped up, you play it too fast. You don't think about the timing. You don't think about the fact that you have to interact with the rest of the band or the situation that you're in. You're so worried about playing that solo, that preconceived solo. The greatest players don't preconceive their solos. What they do is they do their homework beforehand. They analyze the piece, and they analyze the piece, and they know the chords, the background, the bass line, the melody well enough so that they can create a really great solo. Okay, so that's another tip that you could follow as well. And when the great players are soloing, they're interacting, they're in the zone. Okay, they're not in this, thought process of, okay, I'm going to throw out that lick here and that pattern there, and oh, maybe I'll throw in that scale right there. No, they're not necessarily doing that. They are kind of, hearing stuff in their head, and they're communicating what they hear in their head through the horn. And they're listening to themselves, but they're also interacting with the band. The drummer's catching them on something, so they're throwing some more stuff for the drummer to catch. They listen to the bass line, listen to how the keys are comping. That's a jazz kind of setting. For rock, usually you only have like 8 to maybe 16 measures to put out a really great solo. So you're listening to how the band is building up the groove and building up to that epic spot, that peak, that's where your solo is. And then you want to ride that peak and think about contouring your solo. Okay, so all these types of things that great players are thinking about when they're soloing. The other thing that's super important, and this is probably, I don't want to call it the most important thing that I'm talking about, but you know what? It kind of is. In a solo, in a really great solo, you want to create tension and release. Tension and release. Tension and release. I'm going to use an analogy. A lot of people know that I love Harry Potter. All right, I've watched all the movies, I've read all the books. Well, those books and movies are tense. But you notice how it's not like tense, it's like not at a 10 the whole time. It's like, it's relaxed beginning and then a little bit of tension, resolves a little bit. Okay, and then there's another tense point, and then it resolves a little bit. And then there's the big tense and the big peak in the movie or in the book. And then it sort of resolves at the end, but then they give you like a cliffhanger, an open loop, so that you want to watch or read the next book or watch the next movie. That's great writing, and that would make a great solo. Think about that. Think about your favorite storytellers, okay? Your favorite books, your favorite movies. And then when you play, try to incorporate that into your solo, okay? So those are my tips for what makes a really great solo. If you want more tips like this, especially some jazz tips, well, I've got a new free video out, If you want more great jazz tips like this, well, I've got a new free video out, 3 mistakes most musicians make when improvising and how you can avoid them. If you want that, click on the link below and you will get that free video. You'll also get my weekly newsletter that's free with practical tips and ideas and solutions for improving your musical performance. Hey, thanks for joining me. On that note, take care. Have a great day.